companies here in Chicago offering what we offer, double-decker sightseeing bus. But they're big, that's why they're known as Big Bus. They're actually all over the world. So you can go to Europe, you can go to the Middle East, or you can stay here stateside. So they are big. Children really love this. This is called the Rainforest Cafe. And then over here, this is one of my favorite places in all of the city. It's called Sweet Home Blues Chicago. It is a blues bar, all right? Opens every night of the week at 8 p.m. And it's very affordable. It's not at all too expensive. It's about, on average, $12 to walk in, and you'll enjoy some real authentic Chicago blues. Maggiano's, Little Italy. Not only do you get a meal prepared at your table, they also prepare you a meal to take home with you. So it's like the original buy one, get one free. So each member has a dine-in meal, and then each member receives a carry-out entree. So, for example, table of 4 people, just for food alone, it's just under or around $100. And then that does not include the tax or the tip. But because it is a buy one, get one free, it's a very good value for your food dollar. So I always point that out, number one, because I like it. It's a good place to eat. They always have consistent quality, and it's affordable for anybody here who's on a budget. Try to save you guys a little bit of money whenever I can. These 3 right here are all owned and operated by the world-famous chef Rick Bayless. And then we also have a lovely barbecue known as Bob's City. And then right down here, the big beige cobblestone, that was the original courthouse for Chicago, complete with a gallows pole. They had public executions back in the day. This over here is Harry Carey's. That's the original Chicago Italian steakhouse by Harry Carey himself. And then straight through the middle, 1 block over, is the Chicago House of Blues. Right at beautiful Marina City and Towers. Building on the left, the big tall one right here, that is the world headquarters for Leo Burnett Advertising. That is where the famous Marlboro Man was created back in the 1960s. And then we have also the iconic Tony the Tiger from Kellogg's Frosted Flakes was created here, along with Morris the Cat and Charlie Tuna, just to name a few. And then down here, right at the base of this building, if you look over their shoulder here, you'll see where the famous East Linda boat disaster occurred 101 years ago, July 15, 1916. So last Friday was the 101st anniversary of that disaster that claimed 844 people's lives. So it was a giant 3-story ocean liner, basically big enough to be on the ocean, that was going to sail from Chicago to Michigan City, Indiana, for a paid holiday for the workers of the Western Electric Company. They had 1,000 people aboard. They're going to spend the entire day, so it was around 7 in the morning. They had to get over to Michigan City as quick as possible. When they set sail, the entire ship capsized. All right, going from the north side to the west, to the south side, sinking 200 feet below the river's water, all right, all the way to the bottom. It laid there for approximately 2 full days until they could get it up. Once they brought it back up again, they started the arduous task of counting heads, and then they used the entire building there as a makeshift morgue, all right? When it was all said and done, of those 1,000 people, 844 were pronounced dead of drowning. The ones who did manage to survive jumped off the top levels into this water. All right, this water was filthy. It was cold. A lot of people were dressed like they were for the day. They had heavy clothes on. Women in dresses. A lot of that caused them to sink to the bottom. Today, when we go on a boat, we don't dress like that. That was one of the reasons we don't. Another leading cause that brought that ship to its demise, they had put on far too many safety boats. All right, it was mandated that you have more boats post-Titanic. All right, remember the Titanic? They were criticized for not having enough boats, and this one had too many. So all that weight, it wasn't balanced properly, caused that entire ship to sink. So the official plaque and memorial can be found right here on the corner, right there at the stairway. As you make your way down, you'll see that giant plaque. And that tells you in about 2 or 3 paragraphs the entire story. Worth noting, anybody remember the name George Halas? Okay, Papa Bear Halas, he was on the guest list that day. He did not make it. So he had been detained or something delayed him, whatever the case was. That invariably saved his life. So a little of the divine intervention was looking out for Papa Bear that day. Surely he would have perished, I'm pretty sure. The odds weren't too good. Straight down LaSalle, you guys can see that large building with the statue. That's the Chicago Board of Trade. And that's the famous LaSalle Street, which is also known as Wall Street of Chicago. It's our financial district. Guys, in back, stay seated. Do not stand up underneath these bridges. This thing is very low hanging. Very unforgiving, too. That's all steel with an electric current running through it. Used for our transportation system we know as the L. It's hard to miss this giant because it's 4 million square feet total. It's a big warehouse known as Merchandise Mart. Debuted back in 1933 for the low cost of $30 million. It was designed for the Marshall Field and Company State Street store as its main warehouse. Okay, so the store itself had 14 stories in it. This had 4 million square feet of warehouse space, including what's down below. Back in the day, right at that river's edge were open door warehousing. Today they cemented it in, and they put those beautiful trucks in there. So the boats would pull in and offload all the goods, take them into the interior, and then send them up to all the floors using giant elevators, like freight elevators. Today, it's actually home to Motorola. All right, so Marshall Fields is long gone. Marshall Field himself sold the property to Joseph Kennedy back in 1945. Again, he paid $30 million. Joe got it for $25 million. Then the family, later in the 1980s, sold it to the highest bidder for a reported $250 to $300 million. Here comes another one of those bridges. Thank you so much. I know it's there, but you were kind enough to point that out. So got a special prize for you. It's called the door prize. I will hold the door for you on your way out. Down below, this is a very historic point for Chicago because this is where the city of Chicago was first enacted, if you will. So it began as a town back in 1833. So we had taverns and trading posts. The taverns served also as churches and as the first city hall. So inside here is where the first Constitution was drawn up. The first mayor of Chicago was William Ogden. He was elected here. And then 4 short years later, Chicago had swelled to 1 million people. So we became a city on March the 6th, 1937. So 1833 to 1933 was our first 100 years. It all got started right down below at Wolf Point. Over here on this side of the bridge is the south branch of the river system. And then everything as you see north becomes the north branch. And then the original flow of the western branch actually flowed east. But today it flows west. Did a little Houdini on that waterway thanks to the good friends over at the Army Corps of Engineers. Celebrating 100 years this summer is Boeing International right here. That's their main headquarters, smack dab in Chicago, Illinois, right on the south branch of the river. Number one reason they chose Chicago because the main headquarters for United Airlines is right over here, 2 blocks down at Sears Tower, where we're going to next. So after we cross over Washington and passed over Adams, we'll be at stop number 1, which will be the very famous and iconic Sears Tower. All right. But before we even get there, we got to talk about this monster of a building. From the floor all the way to the final top up there is the entire building known as the Lyric Opera of Chicago, dating back to 1930. Created by a man named Sam Insull, who was the founder of the Western Electric Company and also founder of Commonwealth Edison, the same company we all get our power from today. he was the first original electricity baron. He was very, very wealthy, so he could afford to give this to his wife as a birthday present. All right, honey, I've got you your very own opera house, so she could perform her beloved opera live. Sadly, she had no ability, no career, but the building itself has been here with us since 1930. If you get the opportunity, please go inside and check it out. It is a grand, grand palace. The remainder of the building, from all the way up to the top, is all office spaces. Insurance companies, law firms, professional services. Inside here is one of two of our main trading facilities, known as the Mercantile Exchange. Today it's operated globally by the CME Group, which is a conglomerate out of China. We also have the Chicago Board of Trade. I showed that to you briefly. We're coming down back in the south. But when we make our turn here to get you over to the Sears Tower, you guys will see it clear as a bell because it's hard to miss. This is Sears Tower right here. And it's 9 separate tubes. If you look at each tube, you count out 9 of them. They're all at various heights. They all have their own separate elevator system. And then the whole building itself is 110 stories tall. Down below in the basement is a post office. That is why they designed this lovely atrium here on Wacker Drive to look just like a mailbox. So if you see it from the right angle, which is kind of like from right here, you can see how it's shaped.
The decks.
It's designed to look like a drop box for mail. All right. And then down below in the basement is the post office. The whole reason they do the post office motif because Sears Roebuck and Company was a catalog company. All right. So way before we had brick and mortar stores, you had to buy all the products using the U.S. mail. So first they'd have to mail out the catalog, and the people receive the catalog, they'd fill the orders, send it back in by mail, they would process the order for each and every customer, and then they'd ship the products back out, utilizing the mail. All right, so it's kind of a nice tie-in. I thought it was a very worthwhile way to show that honor. And then just 2 blocks over, you can't see it from this angle, but we had the original main post office. All right, and you guys, it sounds like you're familiar. You can actually drive your car through that post office. It's on Congress Parkway, and it takes you out into the interstate system. So that main post office, you'll see it here in 1 second. Just keep your eyes open. And then there is the Board of Trade with Ceres, the goddess of grain. So that's the former post office. It's empty and vacant right now, but they're in the process of rehabilitating it. So it's going to take a long time to clean that thing out, probably about a good 5 years before it's open again. This is the official stop for one. If you guys are leaving, please